You're listening to Happy Hour Hustle from the creative geniuses here at 834. We're funny, informative, and we swear. We talk all things marketing, communication, small business, plus we offer up hot takes on our industry and whatever else we feel like talking about. So, grab your drink of choice. It's always 5 o'clock at 834. And crank it up.
Hey hustlers, Kim here. It's been a while since I've been with you guys. It's nice to be back. I am really excited about what we're going to talk about with Kelli Saunders of Small Business Association in Michigan. I am a board member. I am also I also donate to the PAC, Political Action Committee. I find that really important, which is funny because that's not something that you would probably ever hear me really say. But like when I got involved with SBAM 10 or so years ago, I'm usually dragged to these places by Sue Tellier of Jetco, and started to realize what it is that they do for us on an advocacy and legislative side. They need money to do that. I mean, just like politicians need money or businesses need money. They need money to be able to advocate for small businesses. So anyway, we're going to drop a link in because I really do think you should donate. I promise I'll talk more about it during this and then force you to also give money. But I want to talk a little bit about Kelli, who's joining us, who is absolutely one of my most favorite people, might be the nicest person I've ever met, but also hilarious. So she works for like I said, the Small Business Association of Michigan. She is the vice president of policy and engagement, where she manages all things government relations. So if you need to really know what's going on in Lansing, what's going on, locally, what's going on at state level, federal level, all those things, like Kelli's your person. And she's so available. I don't really know how she does all the things she does, or if she sleeps or any of those things. But what we're going to talk about with Kelli is the Corporate Transparency Act, which is, I wrote an op-ed on it that ran in Cranes, Grand Rapids. We'll make sure we link that as well. It's really going to be harmful for small businesses. But I'm going to jump over to Kelli and we'll let her really talk about it because she does it in a much more, she's more succinct than I will ever be. So Kelli, yes.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so happy you're here. Mostly because people are sick of me talking about CTA. So we're going to make you talk about it. So, because I think it's important from a legislative aspect, like for SBAM to really talk about what they're doing, because I can talk about it from what it means for small business owners. And actually, I had a conversation with somebody last night who has an LLC, and he goes, I just have it. Because I was like, oh, maybe someday I want to do consulting or something. And he was like, I would have to file. And he's like, I was like, I'll just dissolve it. So I thought that was interesting because it will have the impact of people choosing not to start businesses or saying like, this isn't worth the hassle. But first tell people what it is.
Yeah. So the Corporate Transparency Act, and before I go into it, let me just say, Kim, you have been such an amazing advocate for us in this area. If you haven't had the chance to read Kim's article in Cranes, please make sure that you do that. And I know you've done your own social posts on it. And this is the kind of thing that we need to be doing, which is spread the word. Because the fact is most business owners do not know about it. And that's terrifying on numerous levels. So the Corporate Transparency Act was something that was passed by Congress last year and then went into effect on January 1st, 2024. And what it really did was this law created a beneficial ownership trigger, if you will, that makes people have to file with the Financial Crimes Network, which is housed within the IRS, which you start using big acronyms and you start talking about the IRS and people are like, what are we doing here? And so essentially this beneficial ownership trigger, it makes you report very sensitive information, not only as an owner, but people that have substantial control within your business. And that definition alone is like, what does that mean? What does substantial control mean? That's the problem. It's not defined.
Because it doesn't even mean somebody who is an owner. Like you could be like 51%. We're not talking about the 49%. This could be somebody that just maybe does your HR or, is your CFO. So.
Yeah, that is the scariest part. And so, you talked about do people eat? Does this even make people want to start businesses? America was built on the backs of entrepreneurs, whether you're big, small, or medium. And the fact that you're putting, this strain on entrepreneurs and what you said in your Cranes article, like one more thing to deal with. Why would people want to start businesses? And then you're bringing your employees into it that may not even have that stake. And so the big thing is asking them to report information that is sensitive.
Talk about the information that has to be reported, because I think people don't realize kind of the extent.
Yeah. So again, great thing to lead into when you're talking about this very vague definition of what a beneficial owner is and this substantial control, if you will, in that not being defined. If you essentially designate that this person has that control in your business, you have to ask them their social security number, their driver's license number, their passport number, their home address. And this whole concept of that they're trying to narrow in on bad actors, this information given to this entity itself, that can then be shared with law enforcement and also foreign governments. Like, I can't even imagine you going to your employees and saying, oh, by the way, I need all this information that I'm going to give freely to the federal government to share with whomever they deem necessary if they see you as a threat. And they don't need a reason to say that you're a threat. I mean, it is just making good people felons that are just trying to do good things in their communities. And so this whole law itself is really, really invasive and honestly offensive to the small business community.
Yes. Like, trust us, there's not that many bad actors. It's hard enough just to run a business. We don't have time to do illegal shit. And if we are doing illegal stuff, it's totally on accident. And it's probably because there's another mandate out there that we didn't know about and we weren't compliant with.
Yeah, the fact that, there's this idea that small business owners have time to be money launderers and have offshore accounts in these luxurious areas waiting for the IRS to find you out. I mean, we're not trying to lessen, the idea that there are bad actors out there, but there is a much better way to narrow in on that than this.
Yeah. Like, maybe make white collar a priority in the judicial system. So, you don't just have, this is a tangent, but you don't just focus on like the violent crime. Like, if you actually want to help business owners, a lot of times business owners are taken advantage of. And so it's a business owner that's maybe getting embezzled from because they trusted somebody within their organization. And then it's like, okay, well, what is law enforcement doing? Well, they don't really understand it. And they don't also understand small business, which I think this CTA is just another example of that. Like, you don't understand small business, but you're creating more hurdles for us. Yeah. And I do want to touch on what happens if you don't comply.
Sure. So there's a couple different, mechanisms in this law that, are scary, to be honest, because the communication or lack thereof from the federal government itself puts small business owners specifically at risk. And so, I know we talked about like, what are small business owners, like, how are they being notified and everything? I think it's really important to point out that they're not. And so it's a word of mouth thing, which is not fair in any sort of way.
No.
We were talking to a small business owner the other day and he said, well, I'll just wait till I get my letter in the mail. And we said, there's no letter coming.
No.
They're not doing that. And so literally it's word of mouth. It's going to the, what we call the FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Network website, and reading about it, or coming to SBAM, where we've laid it out on the SBAM website that has what this is and, what you need to do and everything. But going back to the original question about the timeline, if you will. So this was enacted on, like I said, January 1st, 2024. If you have formed a business January 1st of 2024 or moving into this year, you have 90 days to comply. And that is a very short time window. And you don't even have to take action, to your point, on your LLC. If it is formed within the state, you have to comply with FinCEN. Now, if your business was formed prior to January 1st, 2024, you have until the end of 2024 to file. And so, what if you don't file?
Right.
We really are encouraging people to comply.
Yeah.
And that is because if you do not with this law, it is potentially a 2-year prison sentence, as well as fines are cost thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
And so our message, specifically even on this penalty piece, is we're really glad to live in a place where we're essentially making small business owners felons. That
Yes.
makes zero sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's really the penalty piece of this timeline. And I know that's scary. And we've asked questions of the federal government. What do you do if people don't comply right away because they don't know about it? And we get the same verbiage, oh, there'll be an educational time period and we'll make sure people understand. Okay, well, our answer to that is if you're not doing any sort of notification system of a letter or an email or whatever, your educational timeline better
Yeah.
be for the entire time this thing's in place,
Yeah.
because there are people in very like urban cores, rural,
Right.
it doesn't matter, like those LLCs you talked about
Mhm.
that are dormant, that they're not
Mhm.
being used, they're still falling in this bucket that have to
Mhm.
do it. And how many people who have had an LLC for years that is just sitting dormant and have forgotten about it,
Mhm.
now they are subject to these penalties.
They could go to jail. And we all know the federal government isn't really the best communicator anyway. So, I mean, half the time I get letters, I was like, oh God, what is this? Like, did I forget to pay some? Like, what is it? Is it a penalty for something I didn't even know existed? Like, you're just always like, surprise. Like, the surprises keep coming.
Yeah.
So, I do want to reiterate, like, well, SBAM is fighting this, you still need to comply, which
Yes.
kind of leads into my next question is what you're doing on the legislative side, like what SBAM is doing.
Sure. So legislatively, just so you know, we have reached out to our Michigan congressional delegation to put this on their radar, because this was a congressional act and they can repeal this. The problem with this act is it was kind of shoved in the middle of like this
Yeah.
big budget deal and nobody
Yeah.
really realized what they were voting for. And so when we brought this to some of our congressional delegations' attention, they're like, wait, what was voted on? What did I vote for? What
Yeah.
didn't I vote for? And so we've really made it a point to make sure that they know that they can repeal this. The problem is, as we know, this country is large. And so you can put it on the Michigan congressional delegations,
Yeah.
watch list or get to it. But that
Mm-hmm.
means the rest of the country has to come together, and
Yeah.
Congress is huge.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean we give up. It doesn't mean we don't take that avenue. But as we've seen in DC numerous times before, it's not exactly, to your point, the most functional place at times.
Mm-mm.
So we've kind of got like a hot one on our hands, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
What are we doing now is a great question. So there was a court case filed by the National Small Business Association, and that was in the Alabama Circuit Court. And they actually won their case against the CTA to stop this act for their members, dues paying members of the
Mm.
National Small Business Association. Now, that does not blanket everything across America.
Yeah.
But when SBAM saw that, we thought, man, we have a great case. We're almost 33,000 members strong in Michigan, unusually large business organization, the largest in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought, you know what? It would be worth it on behalf of our members to file a similar lawsuit to see if we could get blanket coverage for our dues paying members in this space. So we filed a lawsuit at the end of March, and that went into the Michigan District Court for consideration. It did have a hearing in April, and the judge that was assigned said he did not see immediate cause for damage, but he did want to hear oral arguments on our case. And we are encouraged by the judge potentially providing an injunction for us in this space,
Okay.
because he did seem to understand the gravity of the situation. We were hoping for an immediate
Yeah.
injunction, much like what they got in Alabama.
Yeah.
But he did not see irreparable damage on the front end of people complying with the law. However, he thought the grounds of our case were worth hearing.
And I think it's important to also note that this isn't something that SBAM, you don't just file lawsuits. You don't do this unless it's, I mean, bad. Like, let me say it in the most intelligent way,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm
Yes.
getting at. Like, maybe talk through that a little bit. Like, why SBAM's doing this.
Yeah, Kim, serving on our board that we are consensus builders.
Mm-hmm.
We really work hard to work with, we're primarily focused here in the state. We work with the governor's team and the legislature to work on state policy. And then occasionally we insert ourselves into federal policy like this.
Mm-hmm.
But we really try to find a way to work with people in order to come to a good conclusion, whether that's in our favor or not. We're
Yeah.
okay moving forward with policy that's not exactly good for us if we're heard.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was so invasive on our small business owners that we felt like we had to take a stand. And to your point, suing the federal government, that's not exactly a light task. And so,
No.
you know, you put yourselves kind of on the map to say, wow, we better have our books in order because we're probably getting audited this year by the
Mm-hmm.
IRS.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that in jest, but kind of serious at the same time.
I was gonna say, but
So, when this kind of thing comes up and we see, success in that Alabama case and we feel the momentum in us coming forward and being leaders in this space, there are now cases that are popping up all over the country because they saw a step that we took. And because we have such good credibility, not only in Michigan, but really across the country, because we do engage with the National Small Business Association ourselves, it felt almost like cover for people to start stepping up and saying and raising their hand and saying, this is a real problem. We also did an amicus brief to the Alabama case, which essentially is like a supportive case, if you will, to say, this is how this hurts us. We do anticipate that this probably will be taken to the United States Supreme Court for consideration because of Congress's, essentially unconstitutional approach to this specific case.
So I want to talk a little bit about why SBAM and why SBAM exists. And I'm going to speak from, I guess, my heart on this because when I started my business, you don't think about policy. You don't think about any of that. You're like, can I pay the bills? Can I hire people? Oh God, now I have to manage people. But when I got involved with SBAM, I don't know, 10 plus or whatever years ago, and I started to realize, obviously, the things that happen in DC and the things that happen on the local level and the things that happen at the state level, like those are things small business owners need to know about. You have to be knowledgeable about it and you have to speak up. And so like when SBAM takes a stand on something or SBAM says like, you need to know about this, a lot of times you're the only voice that us small business owners are hearing because you're like, I would have had no idea that about the CTA. And I remember like Sue Tellier, who was former chair of the board, telling me about it. I was like, that's crap. That's not true. That can't be true. And because you're just like, no, you can't do that. Right. Like, and so I can't stress enough the importance of people understanding the advocacy that SBAM does, the voice that SBAM has for small businesses in our state, not just in our state, but like you said, I mean, we're the largest, small business association. So like we are an example to others and that's pretty flipping cool. But the point is like, I know even when we were I'm going on a tangent, but just follow along. It's fun. But like going through COVID, like it was like the only accurate information we got was from SBAM. I remember sitting on those. I mean, Brian did those calls like every single day on the weekends because things were changing so fast. I remember sitting there on a Sunday, with my coffee, just like, what now? Like what is happening now? But it was like you are the voice of reason for small businesses in general. And I think, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It really doesn't. Cause I mean, we all know I lean certainly one way, but getting things done for small businesses means you have to work with Democrats and Republicans, and you have to figure out how to build consensus. And that's something that like SBAM excels at. And I don't think I truly understood until I got more and more involved. And then especially when, well, this is just one example, but to see the length that SBAM will go to protect small businesses, that's everything, because you feel really alone in this journey. And like to have an organization like SBAM, like I can call you up and be like, what the hell? Or I can call Brian up and be like, I don't know what to do about this. And I wish everybody in the state that owned a small business was a member of SBAM. And if you are not, for the love of God, just join. Like, it is not that much money, people. Like, it costs way more to join the chamber. So I don't really know what my point was in any of that, but yeah, you are important. That's what it was. SBAM's important.
Well, thank you. And we really look at it like, we truly are almost a staff member
Yep.
for your business. You don't have time to worry about what's going on in Lansing every day, nor in DC. That's our job.
Yeah.
And so what we try to do is sort through all the noise and to provide you with the information that you need that is important. And so we take that very seriously. To your point, Kim, and I know you've been very involved in a lot of our legislative work, our task forces on policy. Our policies are not developed by staff here at SBAM. They're developed by small business owners. And it doesn't matter what the advocacy team wants here at SBAM. We take all the feedback. It is decided on by small business owners. And then our job is to relay those policy platforms to the legislature. And whether that's in Lansing or whether that's in DC, that is kind of like our roadmap, our trajectory about what we need to be relaying. And so what's great about, what we do here in the advocacy lens is that our mission is very clear, and it's just freeing, honestly, for staff to have such a clear vision from our membership on where they want us to stake our flag and where they don't. And to your point, we are intentionally bipartisan. That consensus building, it does not matter if you are Republican, Democrat, Independent, as long as you're willing to work with us on advancing a pro-small business agenda. We'll walk right alongside you. And that does vary from issue to issue. We're not going to agree on everything all the time. But once one issue is done and over with, we move forward on the next. And if you're willing to be there with us and listen to our members, we're good.
I mean, I didn't think I'd really ever like any Republicans. And then, I joined SBAM and I was like, oh my goodness, you're not all bad. So no, kidding. Because a lot of times what I found interesting, and I can't believe this is going to go on record, is you find that Republicans are sometimes more willing to come to the table than you will see, my party. So I think, but again, it's not about that. It's about like, who's pro small business? Cause that's all we care about. Like at the end of the day, who's ever passing policies and legislation is who we need to be talking to. So, I did also want to say, like, you are very well respected as well as the entire SBAM staff, and the position you're in, I think, requires a level of patience that I don't think is normal for most people to have. Because there is no way I could do what you do. I would be punching people on a regular basis. And you are just, you are, everybody really likes you. Like that is a unique thing. Like, and it's not because you agree with them. It's because you have a way of, I don't know, communicating across the aisle. Like, I don't know. Like, and maybe it's because it's like, hey, we're here because of small businesses. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, relationships matter. And, I know you're well aware of this, Kim, but in Lansing specifically, and I know we're talking more about a federal policy, but where we're kind of centralized, we have a Democrat-controlled legislature and the governor's office controlled by Democrats for the first time in 40 years, which is like forever. And there's been a lot of, relationship building that's needed to happen, because typically, and I know you kind of reject this, and this is why I love you, Democrats have been considered non-business, pro-business. And I think there was some, just trust that needed to be
Yep.
established there because Republicans had controlled the legislature for a long time, and it was incumbent on us to really prove ourselves to be a good partner. And it's not that we didn't before, it's
Right.
just that when you're in the minority, you are needed for some things, but there just might not be that visibility that there
Yeah.
was before. And so we really have enjoyed a good relationship after it was established and that trust building happened, in order to have regular meetings and really talk through issues. And again, it's okay to not agree on everything, but if you can have civil dialogue and have that disagreement and still come back to the table every time, that is a functional relationship.
Mhm.
It's like a marriage,
It
you
is.
just gotta keep coming back to the table. And so we're grateful to have those legislative partners, specifically the staff that see value in that. And as long as SBAM exists, that is incumbent on us to continue those types of relationships. And you can count on SBAM doing that, because as long as I'm in this chair, as long as our president and CEO is in his, we will always posture that way. We will always prove our selves to be people that you can work with no matter what comes, to the table.
And I think the fact that there are so many small business members speaks for itself, because we are not a real trusting group. Like, we've been burnt. I mean, literally, we're burned by the federal government, the state, like, I mean, constantly. So the fact that there is so much trust placed in you, I wish I could get that across to more small businesses, that you're fighting for us, and somebody has to fight for us, because as much as politicians like to say small business is the backbone of our economy, that's literally just, it's just,
The
they're
words
just,
have to
yeah,
match the
yeah.
actions,
Mm-hmm.
and we do hold people accountable. I mean, we're not afraid to, you know, bring that up too, and it can be an
Yep.
uncomfortable conversation, but you also can't tell us that you're going to do one thing and do the other. And we do keep track, but at the same time, people deserve redemption, and so we always make sure that that is known as well. And so that's really what makes us tick here. And we find it to be a secret sauce that really does allow us indoors that some, business organizations don't have. And so we're going to continue to just be a voice that represents every single person that has every single political view in our membership.
And I want to say this. Well, we'll go back to CTA and what small business owners can do, but I do want to say that, like, what you do has to be supported by the small businesses, and that doesn't just mean like talking about it. We're not just talking lip service. You need to put money into the pack. You have got to contribute, because if you want SBAM to fight for us and to take this all the way to to the federal level, to potentially the Supreme Court, then you have to be ready to put your money where your mouth is. And I can't stress that enough, because, like, maybe you don't want to give to a party, fine, whatever, but then give to an organization that is specifically doing something for you and for what matters to you. And you are, I feel like, the only voice of small business in the state, really. And so, like, yeah, people give money. And we'll put a donation link somewhere. Can I even do that? I don't know.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can. I mean,
Yeah.
our political action committee is um very diverse. They has just as many Republicans as it does as Democrats and independents to make evaluations of the candidates that run for office. And we just made our endorsements known last week, and you can visit our website to see your respective area and if
Mhm.
we have or have not endorsed in your district. The House of Representatives is up this year. We made 63 endorsements. It's the most our Small Biz PAC board has ever made in an election cycle for the House of Representatives. And our PAC is very healthy, but we could always use more friends
Yes.
to help us beef that up. We give very hearty contributions to candidates that we support, because we believe if we're going to put our logo next to your name, you are worth the financial investment, and we put our money where our mouth is on that front.
Yeah. And that is incredibly important, because, everything's about money. Okay. So we want people to do something about CTA besides educating themselves and
Yes.
complying. What else can small business owners do? And then where can they find information on the SBAM website?
Yes. So as we've talked about, please comply.
Yes.
If you are a business that has been formed January 1st or after, you have 90 days to file. Go to the website, make sure that you do it. We are not covered yet. Hopefully, we will be soon. If you are a small business that was formed prior to January 1st, you have until the end of the year to do so. If you want to wait, that is fine. Another little small component, if you will, to this, you can fill out the paperwork yourself. If you go to the FinCEN website, Financial Crimes Network, you certainly can fill it out. Some people want cover to make sure that they've done it correctly. You can certainly have a lawyer do it for you. Do not have your accountant do it. That is against the rules. Literally a fine if you have your accountant do it. So please do not do that. But you can go to the SBAM website, sbam.org. If you scroll down on the home page, there is a whole section on the Corporate Transparency Act. It walks through the timeline of our legal action. It walks through where the FinCEN website is. It gives a full description of what the act is. It gives the very loose definitions of what a beneficial owner means. And we are here to support you. So if you have questions, please call SBAM. We will walk you through it to the best of our ability. And we just want to make sure that we are keeping up to date on things that happen daily. So those types of updates can be found on our website. We talk about it on our small business briefing, often that is live at 3:00 on Mondays. We can be your resource. You can trust that we are on it and we are making sure that it is up to date. But we really feel like we have the most robust information center out there outside of the actual FinCEN website, which can be very confusing in the way that they describe
things.
Well, when it was first released and the explanation, if you will, was 570 some pages, we went through it to dumb it down to what you actually need to know.
Yes.
So that is on our website.
And the fact that we have to go to a financial crimes website, I mean, that in itself is a bit off-putting.
Yeah, I know.
So cool.
Yeah.
But well, all right. Well, So anyway, do something about it. SBAM.org. Kelly's amazing. SBAM's amazing. Give to the pack. Come to the events.
Yes.
Like, we are small business owners. We enjoy a good cocktail or 3. So SBAM always make sure we have that because it's therapy. We're all there for therapy, really. That's what it feels like. So Kelly, you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I always enjoy calling you the boss lady because you are on our board of directors and you are my boss. So happy to be here to support you. And we couldn't thank you enough for your service to the board as well. You are a stellar member. You do everything you can to support us and we could not be more grateful.
And I will say we will link to everything in the podcast and the blog, so people can read the op-ed from a small business point of view, mine, the only one that matters, just kidding. And also links to SBAM and then also anything else that we kind of feel is relevant. So you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.